Hi, everyone. Maggie O here with Homeschool with Maggie O, and we're continuing our science curriculum review series. Today, we're going to be looking at a name that many longtime homeschool families will immediately recognize, and that is Apologia Science. This is going to be an interesting one to compare with the good and the beautiful because while both are Christian science curricula, they don't necessarily approach science in exactly the same way. That's exactly why I do these reviews. I'm not looking for a winner, I'm looking for fit. So, as we go through Apologia, I want you to think about your child's learning style, your teaching style, and how much independence you're looking for, how much structure you want, your family's worldview, and where your child is academically. So, let's take a look. Let me share my screen. The first thing I want you to see is just how extensive Apologia's science offerings are. This is not simply an elementary school curriculum. Apologia has science options that can take a homeschool student from elementary years all the way through middle school and all the way through high school. And that matters if you're someone who finds a curriculum you like and would prefer not to completely reinvent the wheel every couple of years. But the way Apologia looks in elementary school is different from the way it looks in middle school and high school. So let's break that apart. For elementary science, Apologia has what many homeschoolers know as its Young Explorer series. I'm using Exploring Creation and Astronomy for our example. This particular course is recommended for kindergarten through sixth grade. And something I want you to notice immediately is that Apologia doesn't organize elementary science as simply first grade science, second grade science, third grade science. Instead, you choose a science topic. Astronomy is one option, but the elementary series also includes areas such as botany, zoology, anatomy and physiology, chemistry, and physics, and other science topics. That makes this much easier to use with multiple children. If you have a second grader and a fifth grader, for example, you don't necessarily need two completely different science curricula. You may be able to study the same subject together and adjust the student's work appropriately. Now, notice the style. Apologia describes this as being written in a conversational tone. The elementary series is also influenced by Charlotte Mason methodology. So, this is not designed to feel like a dry encyclopedia where your child reads a paragraph, answers five questions, and moves on. There is reading, there is narration and discussion, there are illustrations and visual elements, and there are hands on activities and experiments. One of the things I would always encourage you to do when you're considering Apologia is use these example buttons. Let's see here. They were right. Let's see here. I was trying to find where they have sample buttons. Let me just drill down into this. Here you go. Make sure you're using these sample buttons. Don't just look at the cover. Let's actually open a sample. Let's just click on this and see what happens. It's very visually appealing. It's very easy to read. Here's a lesson one. Very clean, crisp. This would be great for a host of different types of learners too, by the way this is laid out. This is where you can start determining whether the curriculum works for your child. Just look at the amount of text on the page and look at the size of the sections, at the illustrations, vocabulary, activities, and ask yourself, can my child engage with this? Can I see myself reading this aloud? Could my older elementary child read portions independently? Does this feel interesting to us? Or does the amount of information on the page feel overwhelming? Those questions tell you much more than somebody simply saying, "We love Apologia." Another thing you'll see with Apologia is the note booking component. Depending upon the particular elementary course, you'll see notebooking journals and junior notebooking journals. That gives families some flexibility in adjusting the written component for different ages and abilities. The notebooking approach can include things like recording what they've learned, drawing, writing, documenting experiments, and interacting with the science rather than simply completing a traditional worksheet. And this is an area where I want you to think about your particular child. Some children absolutely love notebooking. This is not where I want to be. I was wanting to see the notebooking journal. Also, you can see the pricing right here on the front too. Here we go. Maybe this is what I'm looking for. No, that's actual, the whole thing that we were looking at a minute ago. They love creating something that becomes almost a record of what they've learned. Other children don't. So don't automatically buy every component simply because it's available. Look at the samples first and decide what your child actually needs. Let's look at, I want to see this one. And also, just be careful because right now, what I'm showing you, they are running a sale because we're going back to school. So just these prices, don't hold on to this. That's a sales price. Just be aware of that. And let's see here. Trying to get to the samples. Here we go. Here's a sample activity video too.
Explorers, welcome to Exploring Creation with Astronomy. My name is Ezra, and I'll be your guide as we launch into God's amazing universe. We'll travel past moons, planets, stars, and galaxies, discovering how the heavens declare the glory of God and show off his handiwork. I'm just doing the final check on our spaceship that we'll be traveling in. It's called the Lab Exploration Spaceship. And this isn't just any old spaceship. It's our traveling science lab with observation deck and advanced research technology. From here, we'll travel to and learn about this amazing and vast universe that we see in the night sky. As we travel through space,
So I don't know about y'all, but that already has me captivated. I would want to see that. Depending upon the course, you may see the textbook, notebook journaling, notebooking journal, audiobook, activity videos, and other supplements. So when you're comparing costs, make sure that you're comparing the actual package you intend to use. Don't simply look at the price of one book and assume that's necessarily your total cost. And I'm deliberately not giving the fixed dollar amount, like I said a minute ago, because they've been running a special. So I'm showing where you can find the current price that's noted, but make sure you understand what is currently being priced. Another thing Apologia has added its activity video support, which we were just looking at for some of its courses. And that's something I think that could be particularly useful for a visual learner or a homeschool parent who looks at a science experiment and thinks, I would really like somebody else to show us how to do this. So remember that Apologia isn't necessarily just a textbook anymore. There can be multiple ways to access and support the material. Now let's move into middle school because this is where the structure begins to change. Apologia specifically recommends moving students out of the elementary young explorers book into middle school sequence, and they're ready for that transition. Here, we're looking at exploring creation with physical science. This particular course is recommended for 8th or ninth grade, and Apologia lists 7th grade math as a prerequisite. Get this out of our way here. So it's recommended 8th through ninth. The prerequisite is 7th grade math. And notice how different this looks from that of the elementary astronomy course we were looking at just a minute ago. We're moving toward more formal science. We're building note taking skills. We're doing more substantial laboratory work. We're preparing students for high school level biology, chemistry, and physics. And this is something I appreciate seeing in a curriculum sequence. Elementary science can be about wonder, curiosity, and exploration. But as our children mature, we want them learning how to study science, how to take notes, prepare for a test, record an experiment, write a lab report, manage a more demanding course. Those are skills they're going to need if they're college bound. So we can look at this sample. This is the physical science. This is particularly important once you get into middle and high school. Look at this with your student if they're old enough. Don't decide based only on what you think looks good. Ask them, can you see yourself learning from this? Does the writing make sense to you? How do you feel about this amount of reading? The experiments are very well laid out. They'll tell you exactly what you need and what the procedure is going to be. Would video instruction help you? You're wanting to ask your learner that because by this age, their input should be part of the curriculum decision too. Now let's look at high school. I'm using Exploring Creation with Biology, third edition, as our example. This is recommended for grades 9 through 10 and is designed as a college preparatory biology course. And when I talk to homeschool parents about high school curriculum, this is where I want us to change our thinking just a little bit. We're not only asking, does my child enjoy it? We're also asking, does this course provide the academic depth that my child needs? Does it include the laboratory work we need? Can I document this appropriately on a high school transcript? And does it prepare my student for whatever comes next? Whether that's another high school science, a dual credit, college, or something else. And as you look through biology, you're going to see topics including the science and chemistry of life, ecology, cell structure and function, cellular energy, DNA and genetics, evolution, microorganisms. The cell structure and function, cellular energy, DNA and genetics, evolution, microorganisms, plants, and animals. You're also going to see laboratory work incorporated into the course. So let's get into this a little bit further. Here they're focusing on proper hand washing. And here's an infographic. There's some questions to review. And here you get into the experiments. This is what it looks like it's incorporated. And this is where worldview becomes particularly important. Apologia is unapologetically Christian. Science is taught from a biblical worldview, and that worldview is integrated into the actual curriculum. So I don't want you choosing Apologia and then being surprised by that. For a Christian homeschool family specifically looking for science that intentionally connects scientific study with belief in God as creator, that may be one of the primary reasons you're considering Apologia. For a family wanting a secular science curriculum, this is not going to be the appropriate fit. And again, that's not me declaring one approach better than another, it's identifying fit. I especially want you to notice that Apologia does give you samples, and I want you to use them. Sorry, I kind of went further than I wanted to here. You can flip through these samples. High school science can be a significant investment. You can see pricing here. And again, we're not locking in because they're running a special right now. So make sure you kind of look at that thoroughly when you're checking it out. Particularly once the investment can be, particularly once we start adding notebooks and testing materials, video instruction, and lab supplies. So spend some time inside here before you make that investment. Now, this is something I want parents to know about because Apologia has expanded beyond the traditional textbook approach. They now offer self paced online courses for middle and high school students. And this changes the parent involvement conversation considerably. In the self paced courses, students receive digital access to the textbook. They have an audio reader, video lessons, the video demonstrations of the science experiments, review questions and study guides, and there's a suggested daily schedule. And they have AutoGrade Plus, which provides online testing with automatic grading and immediate feedback. So, if you like Apologia academically and philosophically, but you're thinking, Maggie, I don't want to teach high school chemistry. This is where I would stop and investigate the self-paced option. And honestly, even some of your co-ops, your homeschool co-ops, they'll use Apologia. if you're in a Christian-based homeschool co-op, and they'll do the experiments, there on site, and they'll have you help facilitate the actual science discussion at home. And you'll see courses such as general science, physical science, biology, chemistry, um, marine biology, and upper level options. And because they're self paced, the student can work through the course on a more flexible schedule rather than attending a class at a particular time if you don't want to do a co op. That's going to appeal to some families tremendously. And then Apologia offers another option altogether, and that is their live classes. They are instructor led online classes. Students meet in a virtual classroom with an instructor and other students. The instructor handles the teaching and grading, and class recordings are available if a student misses a session or needs to review something. So this would be in place of if you didn't want to do a co-op where they're using this. Now they have live classes. So we really have three different ways of thinking about Apologia as students get older. You can use the traditional curriculum and manage it yourself. You can use the self paced online course, and that would even probably work a little bit with your co op. Or you can enroll in a live instructor led class. Those are very different homeschooling experiences. And that's why I don't want somebody to dismiss Apologia simply because they don't want to personally teach upper level science. Look at the delivery options before you make that decision. So, okay, let's put Apologia Science through my Maggie O curriculum fit lens. Let's talk about teaching approach. For elementary students, I would describe Apologia as conversational, literature rich, notebooking friendly, and hands on with strong Charlotte Mason influence. As students move into middle and high school, it becomes increasingly structured and academically rigorous with more formal note taking, testing, and laboratory work. For the parental involvement aspect, this one depends heavily on the level and format you choose. Elementary science is going to involve more parent participation, particularly with the young ones. A traditional middle or high school Apologia course can become increasingly independent, but the parent still needs to oversee the progress, grading, and labs. The self paced option reduces some of that burden with video instruction and automatic testing. And the live class option shifts even more of the actual instruction and grading to the instructor. Let's talk about the learning style fit. I think Apologia can work particularly well for students who enjoy reading and discussion, but also benefit from hands on experiments. The note taking, notebooking, journals can be a nice fit for students who learn by writing, drawing, and organizing information. Audiobook options can support auditory learners. Video instruction can help visual learners. And live classes can be useful for students who thrive with interaction, outside accountability, and a real instructor. For homeschool philosophy fit, at the elementary level, I think this can appeal to Charlotte Mason, eclectic, and family style homeschoolers. As students get older, it becomes more structured in college prep. So it can also fit families who want a more traditional academic progression through middle and high school. The worldview, this is clearly Christian Science curriculum taught from a biblical worldview. This is not simply a Bible verse added onto otherwise secular textbook. The worldview is part of the curriculum discussion and discusses science and creation as far as how the curriculum is discussed. So, worldview needs to be one of your deciding factors here. Under preparation, Elementary experiments and activities mean you're going to need to look ahead and make sure that you've gathered your supplies. Um, at the high school level, some courses require more formal lab materials and equipment. Don't wait until the morning of an experiment to discover that you needed something that you don't own. Use the supply list and plan ahead. For independence, this is one of the areas where Apologia becomes particularly interesting. The elementary program is much more parent involved, but middle and high school, especially if you use the self paced courses, students can take considerably more responsibility for managing their own science education. For a family trying to build independence before college, that's worth considering. Who I think Apologia may fit best, I would put Apologia high on your research list if you're looking for a distinctly Christian science curriculum, if you want hands on science rather than science that's only read from a textbook, if you like the idea of using one publisher from elementary through high school, if you value notebooking and narration in the younger years but want increasing academic rigor as your student gets older, or if you want strong middle high school science but would like the option of self paced or instructor led support. Who may want to keep looking? I would continue comparing if you especially need secular science. If your child strongly dislikes reading and you intend to use only the textbook version without the audio or visual supports, if you want an extremely light, minimal science program, or if you don't want hands on experiments or laboratory work to be part of your science program. And one other consideration, Apologia has a lot of options. That's wonderful once you understand the system. But if you're brand new to homeschooling, don't let all of the textbooks, notebooks, audiobooks, videos, self paced courses, and live classes make you think you need to buy everything. You don't. Start with your child, determine the course they need, determine how they learn best, and determine how much teaching you want to do. And then build the Apologia option around those answers. So that's our look at Apologia Science. And already, with just our first two science reviews, I hope you're beginning to see why asking what is the best homeschool science curriculum isn't really the question we need to be asking. The Good and the Beautiful and Apologia can both be excellent options, and yet they can create very different homeschool experiences. Our job is to figure out which experience fits your child and your family. I'm Maggie O with Homeschool with Maggie O, your homeschool mentor. And I'll see you in our next science curriculum review. Until next time, happy homeschooling.